All right, we're back and we're still in chapter 4. This is the second video to chapter 4, what I'll call part 2. And we're going to be reading the section called The Power to Choose. All right, and this is a personal story that happened to me that I'm basically applying to the idea of being able to choose, make your own choices, and how that applies to financial independence. So there was a time when I struggled disciplining one of my sons when he was a boy. He would act out for no apparent reason and wouldn't respond appropriately to my usual corrective tactics. Instead, he became immediately more rebellious, and that rebellion caused me to lose my temper. It wasn't until I realized that I could choose my response to the stimuli that I changed. You see, I finally realized that I could choose to react in anger or I could choose to react in kindness. I had the power to make a choice, and the choice I made determined the response or action I took. I had my free will at the moment of stimulus. I thought that reprimanding my son would cause his behavior to change. However, after experiencing this similar situation multiple times, I realized that my response, whether it was angry or kind, had no immediate effect on his current attitude and actions. Yet it affected me negatively when I became angry at him for his bad behavior. Every time I chose to be angry, I felt remorse and guilt for my actions. What I thought was teaching my son a lesson wasn't, and my anger was only hurting me. Between the stimulus and my response, I realized that my choice of action would affect me positively or negatively. It was no longer about him. It was about me. I couldn't live like that. It went against my moral compass. In the moment when I thought I needed to discipline his bad behavior, it seemed to make sense to be harsh. But I've learned that anger never leads to happiness. I had to step outside of my emotional state, remind myself that anger doesn't end in joy, and consciously respond in kindness. So instead of being angry, I chose to respond with compassion. In between the stimulus and my response, I decided to be kind because I knew that no matter my response, it would not affect him, but it would affect me. My response would either leave me feeling guilty or peaceful for my actions. This principle of choice or agency between stimulus and response applies to all aspects of your life, even your FI. Whatever the stimulus, you have the power to choose your response. For example, if your parents were not financially savvy, that doesn't mean you have to make the same financial mistakes. Because you have agency, you can follow successful financial advice. Accept the fact that you have agency to choose and take full responsibility for your choices. The more financial knowledge you have about accounting, investing, marketing, and business law, the more FI options you have. The more options you have, the greater your freedom of choice. You don't get to choose if you don't have options, and your freedom is taken away. The opposite of freedom is bondage. You literally and unknowingly put yourself in bondage by limiting what you know. You confine yourself to a small, dark room. The liberating secret from this type of bondage is that you control your escape. Your capacity to learn the right things loosens the chains that bind you. When you understand and act on this secret, you are truly free. All right, we're going to stop right there and pick it up in the next video.